Hi everyone, my name is Julian and I'm a youth and climate analyst within UNDP's youth team in New York. Welcome to the first episode of this Youth Climate Tour, a dialogue series featuring UNDP's work on youth and climate in partnership with youth stakeholders across different countries and regions. So just to tell you that this session will be recorded and then uploaded on our YouTube channel, UNDP's for Youth, and our UNDP's platform, Spark Blue. So this dialogue series will continue for 5 weeks, covering these different countries and regions. As I was saying, we launched it today in North Macedonia, and in the next couple of weeks, we will cover other countries. We will give the floor to other countries, including Rwanda, Malaysia, Papua New Guinea, Honduras, and Argentina, for instance, and others to come. So now I will give the floor to our colleagues from the Regional Hub and Country Office, to Justina Kroll from the Innovation team. Over to you.
Thank you, Julia. Thank you very much. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Let me just briefly share the screen so that we're there. Good. Is it okay? Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. So once again, hello everyone. My name is Justina Kroll. I am currently joining as part of UNDP IRH Innovation team, but in this context today, I'll be trying to recap for you the experiences that were initiated under the UNDP country office in North Macedonia. Together with us, we have also colleagues from this country office, in particular Paulina Zdraveva, who has been leading this work with us. So I'm just here to recap. And together with me will be Ankita Sokolic from Collective Z, with super inspiring story and very good examples of how a very strong group of young women and young activists can actually bring us closer to this important connection of climate action and youth empowerment. So this is what we're going to be discussing today. I'm going to take the very first few minutes to briefly set the stage for the discussion and walk you through some of the steps that we took in the process. But I think the core of the experiences and examples is going to come from Ankita. Of course, as you know, this is part of the Climate Promise Action, and we are going to be discussing this in the context, in particular, of the enhanced North Macedonian NDC. So let me start with a couple of quotes. One is a quote that is coming from the participants, the experience that I'm going to be explaining in a second, and the other would be coming from the UNDP side. And this one, as you can see, is a brief but a very to the point one. Imagine how cool this small country would be to be an example of how young people should be integrated in the decision-making process related to them and their future. So that's an ambition that was set by participants of, one of the participants of the process that we went through. The other quote that I wanted to share with you, or actually the phrasing that I wanted to share with you, is from the other end. So the goal that was set was to revise, to go through the NDCs for North Macedonia, and in the end, the Macedonian climate actions are the most ambitious in the region, right? You have 82% reduction of net GHG emissions, by 2030. This is a huge goal, and at the same time, one that I think we all recognize that cannot really be reached without very active and very well-recognized engagement from youth as key stakeholder group. So this should set the stage for how high we were shooting, let's say, for where the bar was set. Now, the process itself that we went for is a process that really went out there and allowed us to engage with young people in North Macedonia in a way that would be attractive, interactive, somewhat easier to digest, I think, for everyone involved, not only the youth, in order to see what are the climate actions, what are the priorities that should be included in the NDCs from the youth perspective. For that purpose, we have established a gamified platform for consultations that would guide participants through different challenges, questions, but also readings related to what is already happening in the country, so that in the end, we could have a in-depth analysis, discussion, if you will, about what are the priorities, what is it that we should be ensuring, safeguarding, providing, designing, so that the climate action is actually inclusive and also benefits from the huge potential that is provided by young people. This all happened last year, October, November. And as I said, the platform was online and it was focused on NDCs as the sort of substance framework for this discussion. I am going to very briefly walk you through the 3 types of results that we received, and then stress one critical one. But if you're interested in learning more, there's also the entire report that you can reach to and read from this particular experience. And as I said, just briefly, from the content and from the insights that we received from the participants, young participants of these consultations, we extracted 3 types of results and recommendations. One was the principles of system design. We agreed based on the discussions and the insights provided on the platform that basically the system as a whole needs some sort of a tweak and redesign. And if we look at it that way, there are some critical principles that the new system tackling climate challenges should include. And this first batch of insights were specifically on that. What are the principles? Second part of the results were strategic solutions. We've received very interesting and very important pointers and recommendations from young people about how strategically we should approach their engagement in climate action, but also the climate action itself. And the third one is tactical solutions. There was plenty of ideas for improvements, be it in waste management, in forestry, in green spaces, in urban settings, water, and so on and so forth. So there was plenty of things that were more on the tactical side, at the same time really showing us how broad and how deep is the knowledge shared by all of the participants who were in this study, in these consultations. And just briefly, as promised, one major takeaway that I think resonated with many people across the board was on the strategic solutions side of things. This was a recommendation that was around rapport, building rapport between national or public institutions engaging in climate action and youth activists, grassroots organizations engaging in the same. Of course, the ambition, as I set out the stage at the very beginning, the ambition is there. I think the willingness is there. Very big very vast knowledge and interesting expertise is there, the linkage, the bridge, if you will, is not really there. And I don't only mean, of course, based on the results, the sort of declarative bridge that we both say that we will recognize one another during our environmental activities. What I also mean, based on what we heard from young people, is creating a system which has feedback loops, which is recognized formally, which actually builds or creates in the system a space where this exchange of information, exchange of feedback could be happening and could be recognized by both sides. So that was one of the major takeaways, and I think Ankita is also going to be touching upon this one right after she introduces herself and the team behind their work. So without further ado, handing over to you, Ankita, and please let me know when you want me to change the slide. Thank you.
Thank you, Justina. Hi, everyone, and thank you for being here today. My name is Ankita Sokolic, and I will talk about Collective Z, the NGO I'm part of, and what we do on a local, national, and regional level. Collective Z is youth, women-led collective dedicated to climate and social justice by using intersectional approach. And although we officially became an organization in November, we have been working as part of the Young Friends of the Earth Europe network for several years now. We are currently working on a project trying to create a national Green Deal by collective visioning. On a local level, we have several working groups of activists and citizens which focus on collecting visions for different topics like decentralization of the energy sector, education, economy, etc. Unfortunately, shortly after the working groups were formed, the pandemic happened and the communication within and between the groups became a little bit more difficult since not everyone adapted well to the new normal. In addition, we had hoped for more diverse groups in terms of representatives from marginalized communities, but that did not happen, partially due to the pandemic and partially due to limited resources on both sides. You can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. Now, even though working on relatively small projects can make a difference for a certain topic or in a certain community, in the current political system, NGOs and other formal and informal civic initiatives do not have the power to make real nationwide change. That is why collaborating with official government institutions is crucial. One great start was signing a memorandum of collaboration with the Ministry of Environment and Physical Planning. However, signing such documents is meaningless if no further actions are taken and when there is no one to hold the signing parties accountable if they disrespect the agreement. And although the pandemic had made it more difficult to collaborate and communicate with the ministry, we hope that once the National Green Deal draft is completed, the ministry will help us develop it further and strongly support its implementation. Regarding other national and local institutions, sadly, it's quite difficult to establish a functional working relationship. The problem isn't only that these institutions refuse to listen to demands and suggestions from citizens, but also when there are issues pertinent to multiple institutions, there exists no communication between them. Another problem is, of course, the empty promises. Frequently, there are promises that action will be taken regarding a relevant topic, only for new decisions to be made and laws to be changed swiftly and behind closed doors, in direct opposition to the promises made. And despite the awareness of these processes rising continuously and people monitoring them with great attention, it is quite exhausting to have no trust in the governing institutions. And sadly, that trust is yet to be earned. Next slide, please. When it comes to engagement at the regional level, everyone must understand that nature has no administrative boundaries. This means that the climate crisis will not only affect those countries that contribute the most to environmental degradation, but everyone. If we take Macedonia, for example, it is a landlocked small country in the Balkans, which means that actions that our neighbors do, or rather do not take, directly affect us, and vice versa. Our passivity directly affects everyone around us. Therefore, in addition to acting at the national level, it is important to act regionally and globally as well. That's why last summer, Collective Z held a series of meetings with activists and citizens from several Balkan countries under the name Balkan Regional Forum, the purpose of which was precisely regional action. We did this by gathering people's visions for life in the Balkans and then laying the foundation for a Balkan Green Deal draft. At the very first meeting, when we talked about the problems we are facing, it was clear and expected, quite frankly, that we all have more or less the same problems, like the political situation, the empty promises of the governments, etc. These meetings further emphasize the importance of acting together, and that when it comes to environmental issues, there is no such thing as not my problem. The problem is everyone's. If, for example, we take if there are intense floods in south of Serbia, for example, the water will not come to the Macedonian border and say, stop, let's go back. It will continue in the northern part of Macedonia as well. So coordinated work is needed at all geopolitical levels, because if one loses, we all lose, only someone sooner and someone later. Next slide, please. Speaking of regional collaboration, an interesting avenue to explore is social media and collective intelligence. Collective Z has carried out several projects that might serve as a jumping point for future collaboration. For example, we created the national digital platform, Zelen Glas, which means green voice in English, where people can learn about the concept and the importance of Green Deal, share and read about current activities related to environmental and social activism, and share their vision about life in Macedonia in 2030. These visions are later used for conceptualization of the National Green Deal draft, but can also be used for further strategy development and policymaking. Another platform that is extremely useful, especially for connecting with Macedonian Gen Z, is TikTok, which has proven to be a great place for raising awareness and initiating conversation around different relevant topics. Namely, Collective Z's TikTok had an incredible reach, with few videos reaching plus 75K views, which for a small country like Macedonia is quite impressive. On this platform, since we are dealing with a younger audience, we mostly talk about current issues like the climate crisis, racism, equality, equity, etc. Another avenue, especially for NGOs coming from underrepresented countries to share their work and perhaps inspire other organizations to take actions, are international conferences. Collective Z was part of Istanbul Innovation Days 2021, Development and its Futures, where members spoke about the importance of intersectional approach and the creation of the National and Balkan Green Deal. Next slide, please. No, the one before. Now, a question arises: what can an established network like UNDP do to help? First of all, UNDP can support further collaboration between NGOs and formal and informal civic initiative on a regional level by providing financial and technical support for regional platform for collective visioning. And secondly, UNDP can establish a functional network between the Balkan governments and relevant governmental institutions, as well as functional platform for efficient dialogue between youth and the governments, that will ensure that people's visions are taken seriously when creating relevant policies in order to face this climate crisis in a collective and synchronized manner. And that will be it. Next slide, please. Thank you very much for your attention. Are there any questions?
Yes, thank you very much. We are very happy to take your questions, comments, insights. Perhaps you've been engaging in similar exercises, so we're more than happy to share what we've learned and discuss with you. Noela, please go ahead.
Hi, Justina and Ankita. Thank you so much. Thank you to the whole team also for being here today to present North Macedonia. It's impressive the work that has been done to revise the NDCs and ensure engagement by young people in particular. I'm sure that there are more regional colleagues also connected from other regions. It'd be great, if there could be an exchange now or beyond this meeting. But I think that's a very useful presentation, I think, for many of us. It's really great to meet you as well. And specifically on trust, I wanted to come back to this concept that Ankita you highlighted. You said that trust still needs to be earned. How would you define trust from the perspective of Collective Z and also from the perspective perhaps of the broader youth constituency? And do you see a particular role as well, in addition to fostering collaboration or fostering a regional agenda for UNDP or brokering, beyond the brokering role, do you see a specific role for UNDP in helping you with building that trust specifically? Thank you.
Well, since the UNDP is a respected network organization, I think that their role, as I said, should be to ensure that our government listens to us, and the trust starts there. When we see that our demands are met, that if we, for example, Skopje has a great problem with air quality. So when we see that actions are taken to better the quality of the air, then the trust will begin to develop. Until then, yeah. I think did I answer okay?
No, sure, absolutely. I mean, that makes perfect sense. I mean, if of course, I mean, we can go back to that also offline and sort of unpack this. But thank you very much for sharing this example. And I think that the trust building is a key element of our engagement also in the context of the climate promise, which is why I was particularly interested in that aspect. And you did mention, of course, I mean, challenges related to implementation, and it'd be really great also to get a sense of how you will be part of monitoring. But over to next colleagues also to ask questions. And if you want to come back to that before the end of the session, I think it'd be really interesting to hear concretely how you can be part of the monitoring and accountability in the context of the enhanced NDCs. And I think Ben has a question.
Thank you so much. Greetings from the Bangkok Regional Hub in Asia Pacific. Really fascinating to deep dive into your experience. My question is around, I understand from your presentation that you have a broader youth empowerment agenda than just climate, right, and environment. You're also dealing with social justice, and you're engaging to some extent, in political participation, if you say. Is that a strength, or has that been a challenge to have a broader agenda, or do you feel it has been, a challenge from your end? So, just the positioning of the work that you are doing, it's broader than the initial narrow thing that I had envisaged. So over to you. Thank you.
Very interesting question. Well, I think that the situation now does not allow us to see environmental issues as one-dimensional issues. We have to take into consideration other social problems that are connected to it. For example, when it comes to marginalized groups, there are people I come from Skopje, and there are a group of people who do not have proper housing, and when when the climate crisis comes, when there will be like, I don't know, floods and such, those people will be affected first, for example. So I don't think that we should separate the environmental issues from the social issues, because they are initially the same.
Thank you. And if I can add, Ben, just one sentence to that, I think UNDP has already started to recognize, not now, I mean, we've had these discussions way back when, but when dealing with complex issues, we cannot really have tunnel vision on something, right? And climate changes, as Ankita said, it's not a thing that you can extract from the system and change. It influences different elements of the system, but also other elements of the system influence that. So if you go to the report that we published, you can actually see how many different aspects around climate change young people have noticed that have to be tackled if we want to be serious about climate change. So I think it's super interesting, and thank you for bringing that question, because it's like spot on. I think it's super relevant here. So thank you.
If I may also add, so we were quite surprised on the level of knowledge and interest and understanding young people showed when it comes to climate change. So we had previous activities related to communication, gathering their input before we started with this one. But they are the generations that will live the policy, the implementation of the policy that we create now. So the NDC, we create the future in 10 years, in 20 years, and they are the ones that will live that future. So their consideration, their input must be taken into consideration. And we were happy to be able to see that one of the things that was recommended in the report, that is establishment of a official platform or way of communication between the institutions and the NGO, was signed in no more than a month. But as Ankita said, there are many challenges. It is not enough just to sign the document, but also to work on its implementation. So over from me now. There are other colleagues that want to ask questions. I don't know if we would be able to stick a little bit longer, because our half an hour is nearly over, but please, for any of you that wants to ask questions, just unmute and the floor is.
Hello, am I audible? Yep, actually myself Jishnu PA. I'm from India. I'm running one organization, a youth and IT called Eco Foundation, and it is Earth, Climate and Ocean Research Foundation. And we are in our second year, and we are doing some awareness programs right now. And right now we are using the availability of online platforms, and we did some programs like one international conference and some of those kind. And one of the last international conference was on the occasion of World Environment Day, and that was on 5th and 6th. And in that program, we got support from UNEP. UNEP, that was a partner event with them. And we are not expecting a fund this time from UNDP, but a partner events, because that will get a more attention from the people as well as from the institutions. If you can help us to do some partner events, we will organize the event. But in the certificates or in the circular, if it is a supported program from the UNDP, that will give us another level of reach in a way like people will get engaged more in it. And the climate programs and climate literacy, environmental literacy, these kinds of activity we have to do in our country, because we are formally registered in our country. That's why I said particularly India. And my question is, can you help in such way? Because I know from some knowledge, I came to know that only after 3 years we will get a financial support from UNDP, the major global level or regional level. Then we are not asking for the fund this time, but the program event partner support. Can you do that? That's my humble question to you this time.
Thanks a lot. I don't know who would like to answer. I don't see Ben anymore, but it might be that I do not see on the screen all the participants. But Jishnu, thank you so much for sharing that. I would say let's discuss beyond the session. I mean, if you need to be reintroduced, you know, to specific colleagues in UNDP India. Otherwise, we will explore with the regional initiative, with CoLab, whether there is you know, any possibility to connect on climate initiatives in particular in the region. Thank you very much. We've already gone beyond time. That's the difficulty of this format, but we want to keep it short and crisp, and we want to make sure that the information is to the point, so that we can make that easily available and accessible also to colleagues. From my side, really want to thank all of you for joining. Julia, over to you.
Thanks everyone for joining this conversation today. So we will post the video on our YouTube channel, as I was saying at the beginning, and also share notes and references in our Sparkblue page, and all the presentations shared during this conversation today. Next week, we will continue the conversation, the dialogue series with Rwanda and Honduras. We will confirm the timings in the next couple of days. And please also check our Twitter page, Twitter account, UNDP for Youth. I'm gonna just write in the chat box, and if there are any other questions, we will keep the conversation offline or in our Sparkblue page that I'm gonna share right now, where you can keep commenting as well and keep updated regarding the follow-up of the series. So, okay, and I think we can end the conversation, and have a nice day, everyone, and thanks everyone.
Thank you, Justina, Pavlina, Ankita. Thank you for everyone for joining. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of the day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.